It's important to understand the concept of archiving from if as we go on using SAP for year after year, the old data keeps on getting accumulated and eats up space in the system. So cleanup is needed, and the need will always arise where you need to clean up the data which is more than 3 year old or more than 5 year old. Take it offline in another archiving system and keep it there so that if a need arises, it can be used and it can be fetched from the archived servers. So how do we do this? Archive administration is the process which controls all archiving programs. Read, write, delete, and restore. These are the four key processes in archiving. And SARA is the main transaction for archive management. So first thing that you do is whatever data you want to move from the existing production server to the archived server, you will need to create archive files. That's the right process. Second, the objects which have been archived, you need to clean them up from the existing production system. That's delete. Then you also need to read archived objects and review them. So that's read, process, and restore. If a need arises where your production system needs the archived data back, then restoration process is used. That's transaction SARA, and let's look at the actual transaction in the system. So these are the various options available. You can look at the archive logs, and you can look at various customizing objects, database tables, various statistics, write, delete, the main objects, the processes on for archiving. So what do you want to archive is the first question. What tables you want to archive? You select the particular object, and then you carry out the actions with respect to that particular object. So before we start the archiving process, there is a lot of due diligence, a lot of analysis which is carried out to identify which are the objects which take up the most space, which are the tables which eat up the most space. So you have to identify those critical tables which need to be cleaned up from time to time, and you also need to understand the retention policy of the organization. So if the organization requires last 3 years data to be available online, then you will at least have to go beyond 3 years um, to start archiving. Also, you will need to work closely with audit as to how they can see the data on archived server if a need arises. You will also need to understand the impact. So if anything goes wrong, how do you restore the data? What are the risks involved in archiving? So it's a critical function, and it needs to be uh, tackled strategically with a lot of planning and analysis.